So I normally focus on, hair and fashion. That's my little segment, as you know. I've cut your hair before. It's kind of my thing.
Yes.
And but you're a man of many hats, as we both are. So I wanted to sprinkle in some other things in there too.
Cool. Yeah, yeah,
Um, so let's get into it, man. I like to keep it short and sweet. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
yeah.
So let's dive right in, dude. So who was the first drummer to inspire you?
Man, so I started being super interested in drums really early on. I think I was lucky enough to go to a school system that had a beginner band. I want to say in like fourth or fifth grade. So you started out with just kind of percussion and just overall drums in that setting. And so I was listening to, like, funny enough, a lot of old kind of 80s, 90s country as a kid. And don't know that I had a standout drummer early on, other than knowing that I had an interest in it. And then getting into middle school, man, getting into grunge and Nirvana blowing up and being such a big thing. Because I was born in 80. um, Dave Grohl was probably my guy, and that was, probably a lot of time just sitting down trying to learn Nirvana records, kind of self-taught approach. Later on in life, took some lessons, but yeah, I feel like just sitting down and just learning to play Nirvana records, was a huge influence for me. I feel like I went as far as, just how endorsements work, right? Where it's like, oh, he plays tom and drums. I need tom and drums. He has zildjian cymbals. I need zildjian cymbals, right? So the power of endorsements. But dude, just infatuated with that band. Once I kind of got in seventh, eighth grade, and yeah, that was pretty much my biggest influence at that time. I just learned to play with playing along with Dave Grohl.
Yeah, and that's a hard drummer to follow too, man. He hits really hard. He
Right.
hits with that drive. I actually wish I still had a lot of it, but growing up in the DC area and playing in punk bands, I used to have his old bass amp and I had some of his old drum parts too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had like a lot of his stuff and he like had his name carved into it and everything was spilled with beer on it and stuff.
Can imagine. And what's
Yeah,
so fun, man, to see him now move on and front a band like he does and be an incredible musician all the way around.
yeah.
And even as a guitar player, man, nothing's lacking, right? So from a drumming ability, granted, all the Nirvana stuff was pretty straightforward and simple, but you, like you said, man, he approached it with such a power and dynamic that was pretty wild, and it was exactly what that music needed, right? Like nothing more, nothing less, which is
Yeah.
a big lesson for a drummer to take, right? Is not overplaying and trying to find, remembering your core duty, which is to be kind of the backbone of everything and keep everything together. But man, what a great approach, at that with Nirvana and those records, and then yeah, man, seeing any kind of live videos again of just how powerful he was, and yeah, just completely laying into it was super cool to watch as a kid.
Yeah, so when you get into any kind of like instrument or sports, even you have your favorites that we kind of emulate. Like when I started playing guitar, I wanted to stand and look like Johnny Ramone.
Yeah.
Everything was, and then it was the Misfits. So, when you got your inspiration, you finally got behind the kit. When do you feel like you finally became Doy the drummer versus Doy copying Dave Grohl?
Yeah, for sure, man. So, you play and get through high school, still trying to just play. I think what's most fun for you to kind of follow. And then I moved to Nashville at 18 and went to college at Belmont University, and I wanted to study music. So when you kind of enter that world and that dynamic and you're a music major, you kind of throw out what you love to do and you kind of approach it from a different perspective, which at Belmont was centered around jazz and Latin, which is a really interesting approach, man. And as a kid that just tried to grow up listening to the pop music and play rock or pop music, it's a completely different direction. But the core of that teaching is to try to develop for a drummer, for instance, four-way independence, where like each limb can do something separate really well. And the idea is just to build this insane foundation that you can pull from, play any style of music, be as versatile and as broad as you can. But I feel like after Belmont, I actually ended up quitting to tour, and came out of Belmont and did a lot of female fronted pop music, which was really cool. But that is definitely an area where you kind of have to learn your spot to fit in, right? Like it's more minimalistic. It's about the front person, the singer, not overstepping boundaries, not trying to shine too much, not trying to do too much, which as a young kid, especially going to Belmont, you kind of have this chip on your shoulder. I have something to prove. So if I can throw in this crazy fill or some kind of little chop oriented thing, then I'll stand out, right? And so I still feel like I kind of battled through my identity as a musician in my early 20s, maybe kind of hitting what I truly wanted to be and what I felt like I was good and strong at in my mid 20s. I started playing for some rock artists based in Nashville. And that's where I just kind of found where it's like, look, man, I've got all these other things under my belt. I've tried to be as versatile as I can, but this is where I feel really comfortable and feel like where I can kind of shine as a drummer. And like I said, now, from my mid 20s to almost my mid 40s now, um, I mean, I just have a really solid idea of my place in music and my role, right? Again, playing with Bones, another artist-based thing. It's not about me, it's about him. So how do you just lock this thing in, make the best foundation you can create, and then yeah, have some fluidity live and be able to move and flow with him, but all within kind of staying in this realm of just simple, solid backbeat and being dynamic where you can, but also being willing to push and play in almost kind of like a Dave Grohl Nirvana perspective and just beat the shit out of things. But yeah, all while kind of keeping the foundation locked and yeah, just keeping everything super solid and feeling good.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because the few times I've seen you with Bones now, yes, it is, the Bones project, and his music, but you know, yes, you're locked in and you're not overplaying and you're doing what the music needs.
Yeah.
But you very much bring a special element too,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
like you're an incredible drummer, and it feels, I think when you're watching you, you think it's, simple, but I'm watching you work, and I'm watching you do things with like the floor toms and the cymbals, and there's an
Sure.
in between intonation that you do, and
Yeah.
little like because usually, from the times I've seen you, it's just been the two of you. And I think last time you may have had a pedal steel, I believe.
Yeah, pedal steel and bass and yeah.
Yeah, but I remember the first time I saw you, it's just the two of you, and you help fill in certain spots in the music that
Yeah.
need a little accent.
Yeah.
And with the two of you, I mean, it's incredible. It's a wall of sound,
Yeah.
and
And
you know,
that's kind of the trick there, right? Where you come into a gig, as a drummer, you want a bass player, right? That's your dude, that's your right hand, that's the guy you're gonna lock into. And the two of you are gonna build something. And with him, it's interesting because he's covering the part. So from audience perspective, it's the tightest thing it can possibly be because it sounds like at least three dudes on stage. And it's super tight, but it's because he's also producing that low end bass sound. So he's splitting the
yeah.
guitar signal into a guitar cab, bass cab, which then just locks it in on a whole nother level and it sounds great. But it does kind of present a different opportunity for me where it's like, all right, coming into a gig like this, how do I sound as big as I can, right? So for me, playing a little bit larger drums, taking things and tuning them down and just fat and as open as possible. Same with the snare, just trying to open it up as much, getting bigger rise cymbal, crash cymbals, things that are going to wash and then just fill as much space as possible. So there's a little bit of an interesting approach to it where it's just like not only thinking about how you play, but all the way down to your equipment of just like how can I kind of match what he's putting out. And then, like you said, as a two piece, how do you create this wall of sound to even, you know, sit on stage with that wall of amps that he has. And then, kind of build on that, figure out how it feels in the long run. And then now this last run we just did, we've got a bass player locked in with us now. And so it's cool, man. It kind of lets me think a little bit differently. But at the same time, staying pretty true to just what he wants, which is to be a loud rock band. So approaching my gear equipment that way and then trying to play that way too, but not getting lost in this just like beat the hell out of everything approach, being able to find that dynamic level a little bit, which I find myself still having to check myself on sometimes in my 40s after putting in so much time playing and just reminding myself to be dynamic, right? Like you can have a huge impact and play softer, let's say through a verse, and then you give that lift of power into the chorus. So you create dynamics within the song. So still trying to find how you can be this loud, you know, rock band, but then still create this dynamic level, which then makes you even louder and bigger throughout the entire thing, right? If you have those levels of dynamics. So
Yeah, well said, man. That's quite insightful, and that's really cool.
yeah,
Um, so let's shift gears a little bit, and this part will probably go a little quicker.
yeah,
So, all right, so musically, drumming, early on, inspired by Dave Grohl. I
yeah,
think it's great. So, who inspired your fashion early on?
sure. So I mean, I was a skater kid, or wannabe skater kid.
Hmm.
growing up. So early on, man, like I was just influenced just by kind of skateboard fashion. Back in those days, it was insanely oversized everything, right? Like
Yeah.
this was in the Jico Jean era, but not. I don't feel like skaters were wearing a ton of those. But man, just baggy clothes, big baggy t-shirts. Everything was skate oriented, from my etnies or DC shoes to whatever I could convince my parents to, mail order for me, because in South Alabama, we didn't have a ton of skate shops. So I
Yeah.
think, oh man, it was just this simple idea of kind of having this like kind of ratty skater look with everything that's still too big. And I think within the last 10 years, I've even been home to visit mom and find some old clothes in the closet, and the shit's still too big for me, which is funny. And yeah, it's kind of embarrassing going back on it, but yeah, man, it was funny. I just feel like I was just inspired, probably more by that skateboard fashion than any kind of musician. That was an inspiration. Which, to be honest, look at those early Nirvana years, and I mean, that's kind of that skateboard fashion kind of fell in line with that grunge, oversized
Yep.
clothes, flannel on top of a big T-shirt and big ass jeans, and so yeah, I probably found some inspiration in that when I was younger.
What was the skate shoe that you liked back then? Was it, I know Osiris was real big up here in DC for a while.
And yeah, I had Airwalks. I think I had some Airwalks as a kid. I think I had some Etnies and some DCs, which was funny, man, because I'm a smaller dude, so wearing all this oversized stuff, and even the shoes, like they fit, but they were just so bulky.
Yeah.
Uh, but in my mind, you needed that, right? It's just like I needed that Dave Grohl, Tama drum set to sound like Dave Grohl. I needed that gear to be able to skate, which I was not a good skater.
No,
Uh,
me neither, bro. I was not good.
Yeah, I loved it, man, and I definitely couldn't go back to it now. I don't have the balls to get on and hurt myself, especially
Yeah.
being a musician. But man, it was fun when I was doing it, and been going through the house here recently and cleaning up and finding some of these old photos or skate videos or that kind of stuff. Is just it's funny to kind of have a blast or I look back to the past and see
Yeah.
where you were at that time and the things you were into and what you were doing.
Well, I mean, look, when you're a kid, you're looking for that inspiration. I mean, I see old photos of me and I'm like, whoa. I mean, I'm sure I'll look back at this point and be like, what was with the beard, Like who knows?
Yeah.
So who inspires you or what inspires your fashion today?
And so I'm in a weird place right now, fashion wise, but I think when I got in my 20s and started playing for a living, I think there was a guy I played with in a band. His name's Brian Layson, great guitar player. But dude, I joined that band in my mid 20s, and he just had this vibe. So it's the complete opposite of the skateboarder thing. Everything's tight, you know, girl jeans, stretch pants, tight tee with a scarf or bandana or something. This dude just in my mind looked really cool hair, like the dude that I wanted to be. So I think that kind of pushed me into the fashion I kind of still have today, where it's a little bit more of a slim fit.
Hmm.
Um, and then I find myself questionable now. In a month, I'll be 45, where I'm just like, man, am I dressing my age? Am I dressing too young? Like, I haven't really changed shit in so long. Do I need to? So, fashion's kind of an interesting spot for me right now. But outside of the physical way that I dress, which is whatever, I still find a lot of inspiration in like menswear, like suits, especially dudes like us that are heavily tattooed. Man, I love seeing guys just dressed in really sharp suits. And after I opened the tattoo shop in 2008, we were in a big commercial building, and I kind of had this era of wearing suits for about 2 years. And that was really inspired by the people in that building, big commercial building where you would never expect a tattoo shop. So lots of dudes rolling around in nice suits. And I wouldn't mind getting back to that point at some stage in life. And I've even joked with Bones about like, dude, I kind of want to start dressing up, and just like
Yeah.
away from just kind of like the typical looking rock thing, and how, which is for me is the way I dress on stage is pretty much the way I dress in everyday life, because again, there's nothing special about it. But yeah, man, there's a lot of inspiration just in just seeing dudes in sharp suits, from vests to suspenders to bow ties to ties in general, the tie clips, cufflinks. Like there's just a cool element of that. So I hope at some point I can kind of push myself back that direction.
Yeah, man, I like that look too, man.
Yeah,
And I think that's what I like more about like I'm in t-shirt and jeans today, but
sure.
I like that dress denim with the bolo and maybe even like the blazer, leather, hats and whatever. But yeah, I'm with you. Like
Yeah,
I was even telling my wife, I'm like, it'd be cool to be like heavily tattooed and rocking like really crisp style, really crisp fashion.
It's
So I'm
interesting to
with
see
you.
how people perceive you. Like I never took myself as someone that was like felt like I was talked down to or judged by my appearance. But dude, you throw a suit on and look the way we do, right? And show some tattoos. It's really interesting how people perceive you. And then running a tattoo shop, people would come in and be insanely surprised to see a dude wearing a suit behind the counter talking to them about ideas. And there was almost this little bit of like, you can you can say anything you want. People are just like, yeah, yeah. Granted, I'm never trying to take advantage of anybody, but it's like again, like you could say anything and people are just like, fuck yeah, man, that's great. Yeah, let's do it or whatever. So again, just having that appearance when you do naturally look heavily tattooed in a certain way, it's just really cool to see how people perceive it. But too, I think it also presents you to carry yourself in a certain way too, right? You kind of get that dapper kind of vibe, and
That's right.
it's fun. Granted, it's a lot of work to get into it every morning, which is ultimately why I stopped doing it. Where it's like I have to take a do I have to take a shower and style my hair today? Like I just want to get up and put some clothes on and go to work.
That's right.
By the time you press the suit and get all cleaned up to look good, it's some work involved, but it's also really fascinating and it's interesting, man. That's what we came from, right? Like if you look at anything, 20s, 30s, 40s, like the old days, like people wore suits all the time. Like you had this level of presentation regardless of your occupation or what you were doing, which is just really interesting.
That's right. All right, so let's switch gears again.
Yeah.
So you own a tattoo shop. Remind me of the name of your tattoo shop.
It's called Black 13 Tattoo, and we're in Nashville, Tennessee.
Black 13 in Nashville. Cool.
Yeah.
Um, this doesn't need to be like a shit on it session, but
For sure.
what's one thing you dislike about modern tattooing, but what's one thing you do like about modern tattooing?
Sure. So I've had a shop for 17 years now, and I think the most interesting thing, which we see in a lot of trade and labor, is this kind of self-taught aspect. I think the toughest thing for me to accept about tattooing right now is just the influx of new artists, new shops, private studios, and you kind of start to question how these people, where they're coming from, or their background or the experience. And I think with the growth of the internet, things like tattoo schools have popped up, or let's learn from YouTube. When you're in a skill set like this, man, there's so much I think that comes from having an actual legit apprenticeship from an actual legit artist in a legit ran shop. And I think a lot of people are kind of missing out on that, which I understand they're hard to come by. Not every tattooer wants to take on an apprentice, and that's where the apprentice needs to understand it's a big commitment on both sides, right? From a shop perspective, from the apprentice perspective, there's a lot that goes into it. And a lot of the older tattooers, carry this huge sense of pride in their craft and think there's a way to go about it to get in it. Um, and again, with a lot of people trying to just be self-taught, maybe not going through the correct avenues, I think there's a lot of people out there that need to get more experience before they just jump in to tattooing clients, and then trying to charge rates that guys are charging that have been doing this for 15 to 25 years, right?
Right.
There's something to be said about the experience, and there's something to be said about an approach to get in to learn the right way. If not, you find yourself with an artist if you can get in and then trying to break a lot of bad habits. So I think that's kind of been the most frustrating thing. It just feels oversaturated at this point.
Yeah.
Again, there's nothing against that unless the oversaturation, a lot of it comes from this idea of these self-taught tattooers having experienced a ton of time in the shop, or maybe haven't even considered things like cross-contamination, bloodborne pathogens, right? There's a big part of it other than just learning how to physically hold and operate a machine.
Right.
So much more that comes into it. So I think that tends to be frustrating. And I think a lot of my artists, we have 11 artists at the shop, start to feel that as well. Uh, and then, man, on the flip side of that, the thing that I get still to this day encouraged, inspired by, and excited about, it's just where the art form has gone, right? Like it's been such a cool folk art, and to see it now grow, and this is over my almost 20 years of experience, just to see what's capable now. So from the sense of realism, right? Like I know you and I both have a lot of traditional, that bold, very simple approach, but then when you see, including some of our artists, what they're doing from the sense of realism, man, and just capturing this level of detail, not only well enough to understand how to apply it, but to also understand how to let a client live in it, let it age, and it still look really good, right? So creating contrast between dark and light tones, and a lot of this typically is black and gray on the realism side. So it's just really cool, man, to see what people are capable of doing, and how the craft has grown in a way to be able to capture a lot of different styles of art, not just something that is more bold, American traditional, which is great. That old saying, "Bold, behold," is very true. But again, just seeing what some of these artists are able to create on scan, man, it's just mind blowing sometimes.
Yeah, some of that stuff is wild, dude. Like
Yeah,
I don't personally want on myself some of the realism stuff.
yeah,
Like it's great. You know, I'm an old head. I want those old school
yeah, yeah.
1830 home. But all right, so let's switch gears one last time. Um, tell me about your first motorcycle.
And so my dad was a mechanic, diesel mechanic and truck driver. And when I was a little kid, he had a repair shop in South Alabama. And this dude rolled through in an old pickup truck, had just a bunch of shit in the back. And trying to get gas money to make it into Florida, he had an old Honda 185 dirt bike. And I want to say it was maybe early 80s model. And dude, I was so little that I couldn't touch the ground on this thing. But dad bought it. I don't know, probably gave the dude $100, got it off the back of the truck. It ran, had no exhaust on it, was the loudest thing ever. And to physically ride the bike, I grew up on 10 acres, so I'd push the bike out of the shop, get a center block, flip it up, get up on the center block, kickstart it, roll around the property. But I always had to come back to that center block to be able to touch the ground. So I think after that, kind of doing that a little bit, my mom probably being a nervous wreck, my dad yeah, seeing that I was into bikes, bought me a little Yamaha MX-80. So that kind of gives you the size comparison of where I should have been on an 80 and where my dad had me on a 185. I mean, that's what started it off. I got into dirt bikes. I was lucky to have that 10 acres, be able to roll around there. And then ended up getting a Honda 250 Rebel at 14, got my motorcycle license at 14 and could cruise around my little tiny ass town and even rode to school some in eighth grade, which was wild. Of course, you think you're the coolest kid in the fucking world
Oh yeah.
rolling in eighth grade with a motorcycle. But so yeah, man, my intro to bikes was dirt bikes, and then kind of pushed into some enduro and street bikes. Had some sport bikes at one time in my late teens, early 20s, and then realized that was a fucking death wish and too fast for me. But yeah, man, having those dirt bikes was cool to kind of learn on that, and I'd love to kind of get back to some capacity of being able to have a dirt bike and somewhere to ride. So
Yeah. Yeah, that when I met y'all in North Carolina, that bike that Bones had seemed almost like kind of dirt bike leaning.
dude, yeah. So funny enough, that's where we just were. We were back in Dunn, where I saw you last time at the
Yeah.
birthday. And he's got that bike back out again. So yeah, that's a Rusty Butcher build. It is a Sportster that's got the suspension, it's got a different tank, and knobby tires on it. So dude, it's a mind fuck to ride that bike because it's definitely not weighted or geared or torqued like a dirt bike. So it's a sporty that's been rebuilt, and dude, the weight on it and the way it rides and the amount of power it has, like it's an interesting thing to wrap your head around, especially for me that's been on cruisers and street bikes for so long now. It's a weird thing. You think you're getting on a dirt bike, but again, just the weight and the setup of it is completely different. But yeah, he's got that out right now. He's out with Whitey Morgan. He's pulling that thing around again. The highlight recently with bikes on the road was we did a run out west for about a month, and it was just him and I. And we actually got a trailer and trailered his Softail and his electric line, and that was a big highlight for us on the road, man. To be out that long and be able to pull bikes off in Colorado, Montana, Wyoming, like just some of the most beautiful places in America to get out on bikes. That was probably the most recent highlight on a bike and being on tour at the same time. Yeah, something about that was really cool for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would love to do that. All right, so let's start closing things out here.
Yeah,
If you could have one motorcycle now, what's your dream bike today?
man, that's interesting. The old panheads are cool, man. Like if I could have like an early '60s or something, I think they maybe stopped around '65, but like early '60s, like panhead, maybe just to have to like bop around town would be super cool. And then after all that last run I told you about, I had Caleb's electric eye. I think that would be kind of the scenario is have this old man bagger that I could get out and cut loose on, but then maybe have like an old panhead or something.
Yeah,
Just bar hop around the city a little bit, kind of have best of both worlds.
that's awesome. All right, well, look, dude, one last question, and I really appreciate you sitting down with me. I know we kind of ran a little bit long.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yes, and sorry for my delay in getting on to you.
no, it's okay. I know, with music and stuff, you can't really talk about things too far in advance. But do you have anything you want to plug? New album, tour, anything going on at the shop?
Yeah, man. So Bones just put out a new record a couple of weeks ago. It's called Best Western. Super great record. We're starting to play some songs live on that, which has been a lot of fun to get some new material in there. I think we're doing about 6 songs off the new record right now.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we only have one more full band show coming up. It's in Maryville at the Shed, which is one of the best venues in the States. We're doing a Halloween show with them Dirty Roses. So that'll be something cool that's coming up. He's out on an acoustic tour right now with Whitey Morgan. If for folks that haven't seen Whitey, super cool dude to check out. Kind of more outlaw country. We got the pleasure to do some, or we had the pleasure to do some full band shows earlier in the year, and the acoustic thing's pretty cool with him and Bones right now. And then here in town, man, the shop, one of our artists is doing a big art show on October 25th here in town in a local gallery. It's the year of the snake, so he did 25 snake designs to match 2025. So the art show will be all of his clients that have gotten the tattoos on them, and then all the paintings that the art originated from, all built around the year of the snake. So that'll be really fun. And other than that, man, yeah, just kind of cranking things out in Nashville at the shop. So yeah, if anybody's in this area and is interested in getting tattoos, Black 13 Tattoo here in Nashville.
Well, Doy, I love you and I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
And I think, are you going to be on the road in December with Bones?
So he's back acoustic. So the whiskey dates are acoustic. So he'll be
Okay.
on his own then. And like I said, right now, last full band date is Halloween on the 31st at the Shed in Maryville, Tennessee. And we'll see. There's some talks about maybe trying to get another show or two added before the year's out. So we'll see. But yeah, the Whitey run right now and the Whiskey Myers run will be acoustic. So it'll just be him.
All right, brother. Well, listen, when our paths cross again, I look forward to it.
Looking forward to, man. Take care of yourself.